Okay, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's morning here in, sunny, actually, pretty sunny this side of the island. Downtown Hawaii. I'm Cynthia Harrison, your mystic medicine woman, yogini, metaphysician, trauma healer extraordinaire. And today we are here to serve. So let's get started. Let me just get some of this going so I can see who's on here. So today, I'm going to share with you a couple of things. Firstly, the new opportunity that we have. So I'll just spend a moment or so coming into that. So where is everybody from the Zoom? Come over to your inner circle. If you are in the inner circle, pop over now. The Zoom is open. And if you're on the other channels, howdy. So let's just get settled in. But I do want to share with you around the projections in relationship, the stories or the movies, and how we are the, I guess you could say, participants within your movie of yourself and of others. Okay, so this is where we're going. It's a yogic teaching, mystical teaching on I guess the numbers, how they relate to the steps or levels or the journey to full self-realization. Also, how we are in that movie, in that way of being, how we see the other and how the other sees us. Anyway, we will be going into that in a moment, but while I'm just getting everything set up, we will be going into this week, Cloud Odyssey. And this is a part of that journey to full self-realization, so awakening, ascension, conscious evolution, awakening and ascension, but bringing it to the real earth experience of the body, the mind, the lower mind, right? So how our trauma and our wounding impacts us. So those of you that are in, yay, I see you. I can't wait. I've been sitting with it for a while now, and I'm excited to share that. But for those of you, we have a couple of spots left. It's a very small group. I'm trying to keep it in. There is somebody else who is coming on. So we might have two, but we might only have one. But anyway, if we get bigger groups, we'll just start another one. But this is about how to release deep-seated emotional patterns that keep you stuck. Now, you can go to coaching for that, right? And sort of push through it. But what we do in the Cloud Odyssey, which is the program, is we're mastering the emotional regulation, right? Giving you the tools to be able to navigate the trauma responses, because we can't get to the other parts while the trauma response, and energetically that would be triple warmer, the energetic arm of the nervous system, right? When that is on with its broadsword supporting you and saying, I got you, I'm not letting anything in or out, that's stuck. Energetically in your body, if I'm your practitioner, we come across energies that we may say are frozen or reversed or stuck because of that. So triple warmer is, I'm going to say, always involved. And what I've noticed over years is the coding of the energies dependent on what the symptoms are, because the symptoms are just a projection of the relationship or well, it's still a relationship, but whether that relationship is karmic or dharmic, love or fear, right? Yin or yang, how they're dancing together. So what you're experiencing in your physicality, like your aches, your pains, your challenge with your physical body, your emotions, your thoughts, right? And we could go on, how memory is laid down or not, and how we can recall things or not is all related. So Cloud Odyssey came about because working as a mystic, right, on the journey of the higher centers of the body, which doesn't mean better. It just means they literally are from 5 and above. So, right. So we have, oh, I've gone off track already, but we're going there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then we start going into 5, 6, 7. And then we have the infinity of 8, 9, the 0 of the 10, and the 1. So technically we are within the 0 of all things. Bear with me. Told you that we're going a little mystical. This is the core of who I am. I'm going to break it down a little bit. But in the Cloud Odyssey, if what's showing to me with my clients and students is that they may be going up to here into, they're starting to get consciousness, different states, different levels of consciousness, right? We can also do it like this. We've got our lower 4 chakras. We've got the 5 of the crossover, of the threshold of going into that next, so from the human to the angelic or the conscious, right? Higher mind into the infinite, the 8s, which does take us to past. So those who, I was going to say, well, that's a bit, oh, okay. I was going to say, who think they read the Akash. So there's the Akashic records, or the Akash, and the information people receive may be 2 different things. So often people say, yeah, I read the Akash. Okay, we'll just sit with that, right? Could be spiritual ego, that's what I'm saying. You may be getting other information, but connecting into past lives and whatnot is from the 8. This is where we can get that information. I'm bringing it back, Lisa. I see you. Bringing it back. Are you with me? I know some people watching maybe on Facebook or YouTube don't have the background, so I'm going to bring it back together. But let me come back to what we're starting, the Cloud Odyssey. This is all the mystical sort of conscious evolution teachings, right? The mystic teachings of our energy and our physical experience here. Cloud Odyssey, what I'm seeing is people are getting stuck in this density consciousness, which isn't a bad thing. This is our human experience, 1 to 4. But as you heard, I think it was last week, I said 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 = 10. That's a way to get to the 10 of, actually, I'll teach you that another day, but the being within the zero of all there is, right? However, when we're not fully conscious of the relationship here with the fear, the survival fears, what we might call at the hips of the human lower density consciousness, right? We are love and fear. When we bring it together, we become, right, all of that, because the 0 of the 10 is the infinity with a twist, right? There's the 8 there, really. The egg timer, you know. So are we moving through to the 10, which relate to the 10 spiritual bodies, right? Or are we jumping? Are we jumping and missing and bypassing and suppressing this aspect of the survival ego, right? We have the spiritual ego, the survival ego, and their fears, fear of love and fear of fear. So there's all of this happening. So I know maybe that's a bit of a jumble or whatnot. You can go back and watch it or ask me questions. But why Cloud Odyssey start? Well, we're about to start, and I've been doing free introductions to it and whatnot, is because of this human experience on this lower triangle, which connects to the mother, the blue, right? The expression of God, generator, organizer, destroyer, in a space on this planet that we can interact with. That when we're in relationship, takes us to the 11, actually. The 1 and the 1. I am to God as God is to me. I am to the beloved as the beloved is to me. I am that I am. A mirror. All there is the 11. And the 12, I taught you this before. I taught you 11 and 12 before. I don't think I have. Anyway, the 12 is where that goes into the reflection into the world. I am the beloved as the beloved is to me. God in me, me in God. God in me, me in God. I am that I am. All of that is then reflected into the world. And so every other human thing is. I am that I am. Talk about unity, right? It's not just a word. A lot of people, this stuff's just words. And I guess they're words until they are experienced, right? Till you are. So back to cloud. The reason I'm bringing that in is because I've created 3 tiers so that if you are struggling with finances or, you know, you're not quite ready for that real deep dive, you can still join us. So we've got bronze, silver, and gold. I know that's not very creative, but that's what we're doing. In the past, I've done gems and all sorts of stuff. But you can join us for as low as, I think it's $37.50 a week, right? So it's a 6-month journey, and we're looking at not necessarily this stuff, right? This is advanced, but how the teachings and the experiential and the therapeutic container that we sit together, and just sitting together in the container through the golden chain, the lineage, you feel it. You feel it. I often say, come in. How do you feel? How are you? Scan the body. And then after we've connected for a while, redo it. What's shifted? What's changed? Have you done anything? No, other than come on and be in the container. The container itself is healing. Add in the aspects that we share for, let's say, the ego, whether it's spiritual ego or survival ego, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Call it whatever you want. Any lineage I can cross-reference, right? Because it's the mystic truth. And the mystic truth is that point where all connects. So is what you believe right? Yes. Is it wrong? Yeah. Depends on your perspective. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, and I can't help myself. I was going to sharing the codes, the particular spiritual bodies and whatnot. Each one of these numbers connects to a spiritual body, which is the energies, right? They cross-reference with, all sorts of stuff. So there's that side of it. On a more physical level, we're going, where is the trauma? Do you have trauma? Or is it more an attachment wound? Or do you have both? This is what we deal with. So everything, I'm just going to put it out there. Now, I'm really over just fiddle-faddling around. Is that even a word? I don't even know. Like, just sort of, mix some words, right? We're pretending. Your ego, I don't care which one. Fear of love is fear of being and succeeding and being that reflection of God. And if you have a hit on the word God, in yoga we say generator, G-O-D, because it's about the God within you, to get to the 11 and then reflect the 12, which is beyond the physical experience. Like it is your spiritual journey. So if you're on a spiritual journey, well, to what? Because you can have an idea of that, or an idea of oneness or connection. The idea isn't going to get you there. It'll take you a certain way. It'll take you a certain way, right? Most people these days have an aspect of their heart awakened, but there's 7 doorways, 7 sparks, 7 heart channels, plus the spiritual heart, thymus, the physical heart, the heart center, or the chakras, 4 chakra. And then we have the, I'm forgetting my words today, the divine, the divine heart, which is just off the physical heart, the cave. All of that, it's not like, oh, there's one point and you need to, there are stages in your development. There are multiple heart awakenings. And this is where a lot of spiritual teachers, a lot of people on their journey go, I'm awake. Yeah, you might be. You might be to a degree. There is consciousness. Can you hold the consciousness? Do you understand the other's stories? Can you see yourself reflected in them? If I'm speaking to you, so feel into this. I'm speaking now. can you see me in you as I speak? Because if you can't, you're not, there's no reflection. Does that make sense? When someone's speaking, do you see them within you? And bringing that back to the cloud, when somebody's speaking, do you feel them in you? That would be something else. Like, it's love or fear, fear of love. If it feels good, it's still a fear, because it's through the nervous system, through the energetics, through the nervous system, there's a change. So the body will go, ah, or it'll go, ah, but it's still, there's something has knocked on the door and has entered, and you're not fully conscious of it. So there's a fear. When we're conscious of it, we still experience it to some degree. Sometimes we don't, but we experience it. And then we are not bringing the story in, right? How it's laid down in our memory, what's missing is the trauma teachings, right? Which is in the cloud. So when we say, oh, we're stuck, we can't move forward, it's related to all of this. You can't push it away. You may be able to push through it in one area. Think about this. When, you know how, so many coaches, I won't say all, but many coaches or mentors or teachers, they'll say, if you're scared of something, just push through it. I'm not about pushing, punching, disrespecting, having any sort of toxicity with what is coming in. It's about your relationship. What's the relationship you have with fear? What's the relationship you have with something that's challenging if you don't like the word fear? I heard two leaders actually in the community talking about what their fear is, and they straight up said, well, I don't really have fear. I like to call it challenges. Well, that's a fear in itself. Fearing, yeah, Lisa, you got that, didn't you? Right? That's a fear in itself. It's like with me in the past, I couldn't say the word God because I had so much, there's certain words in our world has so much charge on them. And I worked with that relationship because it wasn't a truth. It was the word, how people had bastardized the word, right? The meaning of the word was tarnished, was bastardized, was coated in toxicity. And I had my own relationship, right? Because I had as a mystic, direct relationship with the beloved, right? How to, I guess, remember the words in their, I guess, their purity, or the core of what the word means. And a lot of our words now mean things that make them meaningless, right? What's the meaning in our world? What's the meaning, right? It's all about meaning making. And then what's true and what's not? What's the story? So this is really what I wanted to talk about today, but I just wanted to say Cloud Odyssey is about looking at the love, the fear, the karmic, the dharmic mapping, where that is in your system. Right? We use psychological psychotherapy, sensory motor psychotherapy, neurosensory work, because that's the body to move and feel and express and discharge the charge, the voltage, the energy, so that it can be utilized within your system for your journey, for your expression, for your love, or the unconditional love within the world, right? So I find it difficult to separate the energy, the physical, the soul to spirit because of this. It's all within it. Yet while we still push against it because of our fears aren't bad. Fears aren't bad. I was talking this morning about the difference between polarity and duality and the paradoxes, but I chose not to teach that today because it will do your head in. So maybe we'll do it later. But you know, how one can exist without the other, like salt and pepper. Salt can exist without pepper to some people, but for some people it can't. Like my grandfather, he had to smother his food with pepper, smother his food. I'm sure he couldn't see what he was putting. I'll be like watching all this salt and pepper go. I'm like, oh my goodness. Anyway, but that was his story, his movie, what he liked. It wasn't my movie, my story, but was I in his movie or was he in my movie? And that's my little segue, I guess, into our relationships with ourselves and with others. But just to round off the Cloud Odyssey, we're starting soon. If you're interested, wherever you're watching this, go and scroll down and have a look at the link. I've changed the page, so click on the link, go and have a look. If you've got questions, contact me. Let's talk about it. I'm not going to sell you because you're either called or you're not. The only people I sell, and it's not even hard sell, it's like this, are students. So if I've come back to you, because I don't do that, if I've come back to you, it's because I see you in the class. I've already seen it. I already know. And now it's just for you to know and see yourself in that movie because I already see you there. I already see you there. Right? I already know. So anyway, it's with love. It's with love. So for those of you that don't know me, it's your opportunity to sit with that. And if you're called or you have challenges, trauma, wounding, emotional wounding, relationships, whatever it is that you're wanting to get to from here to here, where that gap is the charge not being able to go all the way through. There's a gap, right? And so it has to keep looping, keeps looping. And that reminds me of the 7. So the 7 in Karam Kriya is forgiveness, right? Forgiveness. So in relationship, the pain or the hurt that we've had can create, this is what reminded me, can create the loop. So you've got the pain or the hurt or the suffering or whatever's happened. Can you see that? Whatever's happened. And then it goes to the non-forgiveness, right? Which creates more hurt, which creates more, which it's a loop. So while there's no forgiveness, you can't see that, there you go, non-forgiveness. There's a looping. And you're actually creating more pain for yourself. Eventually, that experience, that happening is redundant. It's this looping that, you know, keeps you from moving forward or keeps you from growing or having, you know, your heart open, right? That's been my mantra to myself for so many years now. You know, I can remember numerous times I've had a very exciting life. I found myself numerous times curled up in the fetal position, right? In that dark of the dark of the dark. That's why I teach on fear, love and fear, and the fear of fear, and the fear of fear of fear, and the fear of love, and the fear of love. It's the spiraling into the darkness. But it's the shadow of the dark that's the issue, not the dark itself. So it's like saying the mother is the problem. No, the mother is part of us. The divine mother, divine father. It's like saying, well, the mother doesn't matter. We just want the father. Well, that's the problem. You're half. You're walking around half a person. So creating a relationship in the self with the masculine and the feminine, but then we have the higher or the expanded relationships with the mother and the father, right? Which sit energetically at there's vortices here energetically. And then the divine mother, divine father, and how they meet, how they marry at the heart. That's just the first awakening. That's just the first, right? So those that in there's many traditions that show this. I used to have well, I still do. It's on my phone somewhere. The Shakti Shiva, but the stories of Kali Ma and that evolution, where Shiva was married not to Shakti, right? So there's masculine and feminine, then there's that marriage, and then there's the higher marriage, and then there's the ultimate union, right? There's stages. That's why a lot of people have that general union and believe that's it. And that's cool until it's not. Okay. And this is where the spiritual ego comes in. There's an arrogance of, oh, I'm here, I know, I have information. You have information on a certain level. And when you get to the next level, you realize, like, that's why I laugh. I laugh about how I was. And I'm sure in the future, I'll laugh about how I am now. Do you see? Because there's a more expanded understanding. Right? Just because you can get information, and those of you that have done intuitive studies, just because you can get information in mediumship or trance, or you have intuition, right, doesn't mean you are evolved. Every human, and I've proven this, we've done the research, every human, right, when shown, can develop those capacities. But there's many psychics and mediums and whatnot that are not conscious. Do you get me? And that's why I say pure metaphysics. There's a corruption, because unless they're working on these relationships, the information they get is corrupted through their own egos, right? Fear of love, spiritual ego, survival ego. And you can think about that. I mean, it happens to me all the time. Like, this is a real simple example that I get a knowing, and so, I just get information and I keep walking. That information might have been to stop and, I don't know, check something, or go and get something, or whatever. Right. And I don't. because my intuition is so on point that if I don't, there was a reason that came in. Do you understand? So when you're listening with your whole body, and that relates to the number 10 too, listening. Like our hair is antenna. Our hair, my teacher Shiv, he says, if your man's not listening, get him to grow a beard, because the hair is antenna, amongst other things. Right? The hair on our body. And if you notice, we have more hair in certain places of the body. Contemplate that. I'm not going to give you the answers, but contemplate that. Where the most hair is on your body, and and you may not know fully this, but just from your understanding, why that might be so. In these certain, so if you remove your hair where there was hair, right, the most hair, armpits, groin, head, face for men, but even eyebrows, eyelashes, right? There are reasons for it, and there are things that happen when we remove the hair. And that's why many traditions grow their hair. They don't cut their hair or shave it or get rid of it. All right, gone around and all over the place. I still haven't taught you what I wanted to share. It relates to all of this. I wanted to show you. So any comments or questions, pop them in. Know who's watching. Is Emma? Okay. So you've taken a mental snapshot of that. I think I've taught this once, so it'll be a refresher for some of you. But it's very rare I teach the same thing the same way. So I'm going to go over it, and then we're going to move on to our inner circle. So if you're here and you have questions, pop them in. If you'd like to know more about the Cloud Odyssey, go to wherever you're watching, go to the post, and there will be a link to the Cloud Odyssey. Click on it, have a look, right? It's as little as, say, $38 a week for the depth and the container of your healing, for your healing, right? Or you could go as advanced and as deep with the higher programs. But go and have a look. There's a link to connect with me. If you want any information, do that. Now, we're moving on to relating and our projections. So there's our two little people. And we have movies, we have stories, we have movies. Within a movie, we have multiple stories, right? Does it ring a bell for some of you? The multiple stories. I believe I've only taught it once. I think Rebel, you've heard this probably a year ago. So to be sort of a refresher, but it's different. So we have these projections in our movie. So I'm looking at you, some of you are still on social media, but those on Zoom, I'm looking at you. and I see you in my movie. I'm here in my movie. You're in my movie. And how I like, who are you in my movie? Right? You're in your movie and I'm in your movie. So there's a bunch of projections right there. So you have you, who you think you are in your movie, right? So you have who you think you are in your movie. You have who you think you are in my movie. And this person has who they think they are and who they are in that movie. And then we have who we'd like to be, who I would like to be in your movie. And then, of course, it's most likely how you would like to be, or what character, or what, how you'd like to be seen and acknowledged or whatever in my movie. Right? So we have all of these projections. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a base. So they're stories. So there's the movie of life, but then there's Cynthia's movie. Right? And you could even break it into Cynthia's movie as a teacher. We could break it even further when I'm teaching, where I'm the mystic, or when I'm teaching about something more like trauma work, psychology, or politics, or human condition, right? I can merge that all in, but when it's purely as the mystic, it's different. It's different. That's the movie. So who are you in that movie, and who are you in the other movies? So contemplating that, I guess choose somebody in your, that you see in your movie, right? It could be me, it could be a child, a partner, friend, a human in your, and look at, so just the contemplation on who I am could be a life's work. And then we have who I am, who I am in your life, or how I am in your life, who I'd like to be. Am I that? Am I trying? Are there expectations? Who are you projecting yourself to be? So you may be scared, like we talked about before, that fear of not being liked or loved or heard or seen, the attachment stories, the traumas, the woundings, and how you see yourself in the other's movie, yet it's not playing out that way, or it's not received. So you see yourself in someone else's movie as helpful, compassionate, right? And you're in their movie and you're not aware of what their movie might be playing or needing. And so therefore, it's like what's coming to mind. So this might be a bit complex for some people. It's playing out. So an earth element misaligned is can be over compassion or meddling, or what's another word for that? Like annoying, like just in the way. I don't need, I'm good. And the person just keeps coming and wanting to help you or give you some food or a cup of tea, like every 5 minutes. Or you're sleeping soundly and they wake you up to ask you something ridiculous that they could have waited. You know what I mean? Right? It's just a story. I'm trying to get you to feel into that. So we have that. So how they see you in their movie is not kind and compassionate. It's annoying and meddling and sticking your nose, a busybody there, a busybody or whatever. What are some of the other words, right? But you're there in compassion. If that's not received, then what's the story you tell or might tell? So you could bring something to mind that actually is happening and look at it. That would be consciously in relationship. So we could go, what can I offer in your movie? There are times when it's my movie. There are times when it's your movie. Do you see? When you're the star of the movie, let's just say, it's not really a star, but like in a relationship, when I may need support or to tell you something or to share something, then it could be seen as, in that moment, it's my movie, and the partner, how can they support that actor in the movie at that moment? So let me break it down to real life. You may have found something. So for me, it would be downloading something like Cloud Odyssey, having all these ahas and it being downloaded over time, and going to my family, the excitement of this is a part of what I'm here to serve, and them listening to parts of that, right? Or a child that's found, I don't know, they've never seen a snail before and they found their first snail in the garden. They bring it in to show you and it's their movie. They're excited. How the parent or how the other person supports their movie or shuts them down. Because it's a fight or a collision or it's when I say the sevens are back to back. I'm not going to go into that. It's another teaching, but you can just see that they're not, right? They're back to back. So there's some disjoint, right, between supporting another or the expectations that they should be a certain way in your movie. You get me? So it could be I go to my partner and I say, I'll bring Cloud into it because these are conversations, they're real, right? I'm starting, or it's coming up. Friday is our first class, right? And there's I write things in my head. I'm a writer. I do. This is what I'm teaching you right now. And literally you can see it's all in my head though, right? See it in my head, feel it in my body, And if it feels a particular way, now I'm listening with all of the hair and all of my senses. I'm listening with all of my senses. I see, feel, sense, know, taste, smell, touch, right? Energy. Guided through that. Now, if it's all about my story all of the time, then the other isn't getting their needs met. The other isn't getting acknowledged. The other isn't, so how they see themselves in my movie and how they actually are. So if I wasn't allowing anyone else to have the stage, so to speak, to have the floor, right? If I'm not saying, what are your dreams? Who are you today? So some of you may have heard the teachings. I've taught this for probably 10, 15 years, probably more than 15 years. And I wrote a blog on trust. And this is what I meant. I should rewrite that or even go back and have a look at it. It was on trust, and that, you know, trust makes people lazy, I was saying, you know, how our brain works and how we lay down memory, it's how it is. So when someone says something, you might have done some of those puzzles and whatnot, or when you read certain words and there's letters missing, your brain fills in the missing letters. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or you see a picture and some of the image, like in abstraction. You know, I've been doing these little watercolor abstract portraits using four tones of one color. And there's no lines or anything. And it's really cool. I should have brought them in there in the other room, but and so I got sidetracked there. But it's like our brain, you know, we're filling in the information. And that's how when we smell something or we see a certain color or image or whatnot, there's a laying down and a memory to something of the past that hasn't been fully laid down in our system, filed away well enough, right? So there's missing pieces so that it can't create that circle, so that it doesn't keep cycling, right? Get me? When it's a circle, it doesn't have to keep cycling, right? So because you're coming around and the charge, it can't get to the end. So there's this charge that's happening, which will be your trigger, your pain, that like, oh, like it's a pain energetically is a heat, is a buildup of too much energy, because it's trying to build up here to push through. And I'm saying there are more compassionate ways to create that connection. I'm jumping around, but I'm the circle. I'm the circle. Most of you are used to linear. But remember, within the circle is everything. Within the circle, which is the 0 of the 10, right? So anyway, you're building up to try and get that through. And I'm saying, and this is why cloud is important, cloud Odyssey is important, so we can understand that and allow it to move through, so that you can utilize all of that energy into your life, into your living, into your lived experience, right? In the moment, rather than all that past story Okay. And look, I'm a storyteller. I tell stories. Everything I say is a story. This is a story. Everything's a story. Is it conscious or unconscious? Where's it coming from? Are you aware of what the outcome is? Are you speaking for the sake of speaking? Are you speaking to feel a certain way? Notice that in arguments or when you're triggered, do you feel like you have to go after that person and say something or write something or text something or call them, or right? And they're trying to get away from you. Do you see what I mean? Is it a fight or is it a flight? Is it an avoidance or is it a, needing the connection? These relate to adaptive strategies, how those experiences in early childhood are laid down in your system. And you can go further back to past lives and all that, but hey, isn't this life tricky enough? How about just sort this life out? Right? We can go all of there, but bring in some of what's holding you now. It's like we can go into spiritual ego and go, oh, it's past life stuff. Yeah, but you're living now. So when you work on what I drew before in the present consciously, it will clear it in every lineage. You will have the legacy. Your legacy will be it not playing out in the world for others, whether it's your children or the rest of the world. Do you see? It's the greatest legacy any human, in my humble opinion, could leave is not to leave that, right? To clean it, to ishna, to cleanse, to wash, to move it consciously for the remembrance of God. Generator, organizer, destructor. Oh. I haven't even got past the first page, right? I've been going for a while. Let me just feel into. So really, we're constantly refining the stories, our story, like how that person is. So what I was saying, I'm going to circle back to when I was saying curled up in a fetal position. See, I don't forget. It's just circular. Curled up in the fetal position, and my I guess what I said to the beloved, what I guess it wasn't really a promise. What's the word? I said, I will not close my heart. No matter how much it hurts, that is my journey. I refuse to close off my heart to make things feel better. And so how does that relate to what I teach now? Everything, every way. Consciously looking at the stories, consciously looking at the layers and where it is in the energy, right? And not just making it go away. Going, there you are. There you are. Part of my ultimate story, part of why and how I am how I am. But I can consciously choose to bring that with me or to utilize the charge that may be there for another part of the story that's to come, or the movie, right? So when the other person, the other movie, the other star, so when it's their time, you're in their movie. It's their movie and you're in their movie. The sorts of things that could play out are how you do the support role. Or while you're working on that program, can I bring you something? Do you need anything? Would you like where's the compassion? But not the over compassion of placing yourself in the movie. You don't need anything? Cool. Okay. Step out, step away. Our attachment, our fears are, oh, they're doing something. Not everybody's, but there are people who will have these fears. There's all sorts. They're not paying me attention because they're in their movie, right? They're developing a whole new series within the movie, and they're not needing you in the way that you may need to be needed. So this is why understanding how these experiences are laid down in the memory, in our energy, and how they express in our physiology is important and not important at the same time. So our story. So my story about myself is constantly refining. Your story about yourself is constantly refining, right? Those that I'm looking at. I don't know about the others, right? You're refining, you're choosing, you're coming to the program, you're here studying, you're here experiencing, you come and sit in grace. You're refining your story. Who am I in my movie? So I can clearly see how others are and how I am in others, right? Their stories. Every morning, and so I'm going back again, and then I'll wrap it up. I said, 10, 15 years I've been teaching about this trust. We're trusting, and it's lazy because we are not finding out what's actually happening for the other in that moment. We're filling in the gaps based on how they were yesterday and the day before and the day before that and the day before that and the day before that and the day before that. I talk about dying daily. So when you wake in the next morning, who are you today? Who is your partner or the people in your life today? And if you want to be, I'm just going to say, and it will trigger some of you, and so it should. If you're going to be lazy, which we all are at some way, moment, right? That's why we're set up in that way. Maybe not why, but it makes sense. It actually helps us survive, so we don't have to every single day find out the same information over and over and over again. What was that movie, 50 First Dates or something? So have you seen it? Where she had a brain injury and she met this guy, and the next day she wouldn't know who he was. And it went on and on and on anyway, and he would video things, and I think they had a family and everything, but she couldn't remember the next day. I used to work in the acquired brain injury clinic in Australia, and a lot of my clients were like that, even more so in that if they came to, if I was their case manager or, working with them over time, they would come into the clinic and I would be working something out with them. If I had to leave the room to get something, or they did to go to the toilet or something, and they would come back into the room, they wouldn't know who I was. Even there are some people that within the conversation would forget why they're there and who they, right? This is, some of you may have elderly family. Some may even have memory problems yourself. Like, it's not necessarily, but there are those degrees of awareness. And they taught me, I remember those mostly men, because of how they got their head injuries, and look, we're veterans, military veterans and whatnot. But there was one aerospace, he was a genius. And in his story before his brain injury, he was arrogant, he was wealthy, he, lived this, like, not that all wealthy people are arrogant, but he had this was his story. And he lost who he was. And he was one that had enough awareness to know that he didn't know. And he would cry to me. And I remember these people, like, he's bringing, they've impacted me. And I'm talking, this was when I was in my early 30s, 20-something years ago, 25 years ago. Is that right? Maybe. Yeah. Oh man, I'm getting there. My eldest daughter's birthday next week, and I can't even, I'm like, when I say how old she is, I'm like, really? Oh my God, that's awesome and terrifying at the same time. Right. Anyway, when you kids grow up and they get to a certain age, you think, man, I must be old. Right. Anyway, I don't have a big fear on that, because I never thought I would be this old. I never thought I would get to this age. I never thought I would get to 40. Right. Actually, I don't think I ever thought I would get to 30. And when I got to 40, I was so excited. And then when I got to 50, I was like, oh man, okay, now, like, bring it on. All right. So where was I? So remembering. I'm remembering of the remembrance. I still remember these people, and they changed my life. And that man that would cry to me regularly, not boo-hoo, like, but he would be, he was aware that he wouldn't remember me by the end of the day, or he wouldn't remember, there was a loss and a grief there. And I can remember saying to him, and I shared that, and this is why I'm sharing this with you, because they impacted me. I hold them in my heart. I'm sharing their teachings that they taught me just through our interaction. It changed my life, because it wasn't about what he remembered. He was remembered within me. And now, all these years later, 20-something years later, I'm still talking about them. They are not gone. They are remembered. They hold a place. They are part of the lineage. Do you get me? So who are you in your movie may not be who you are in their movie. So who he thought he was in my movie was not who I received. He didn't see himself as anything. He didn't know why he should exist. But the lessons that they gave me, all of them. I could go through a lot of them. Even the younger kids that the 7-year-old, I worked with him from 3 to 7 years old. He got kicked out of home. Like his behaviors were so extreme that, it was hard for any normal family to be able to deal with that sort of trauma. Well, I got a photograph of him last week. I think I told some of you. And he must be, I don't know how tall he is. He's this man now. And he graduated. This is a child, it chokes me up. This was a child that people heard his name and they hated him just from his name. The behavior was the behavior was extreme. But those are the kids I worked with. I worked in a specialized program with the extreme behaviors, not normal, not a general program, a specialized program, right? And these kids, we worked on that amount of terror, that amount of trauma, that amount of fear of theirs and of others. So working with teachers to prepare teachers so that these kids could get back in school. They weren't allowed in school because they were too violent, supposedly, right? No, they weren't able to regulate the amount of fear and terror that came into their systems. They couldn't sit still. They couldn't listen when they're in that state. Nervous system regulation. When you have an argument or your fear comes up because of something you've heard, or maybe your partner or your friend's movie doesn't include you as it did the same way yesterday. So you're triggered because of your abandonment fears or, survival of needing to be talked to, liked, close to somebody, or whatever it is. Or maybe you need to be away from people and your partner or your kids or whatever want to be right next to you, and you have this avoidance sort of thing. That's going to create this. So when you're in that, how far out of that window of tolerance, right? So you're going along and then your kids come in and it takes you into your trauma response. And you might, you might yell, you might, there's extremes. You might throw something, you might hit them, you might get, in the old days, the strap, we were talking about this the other day, the strap or the wooden spoon or the cord, the electrical cords. How many of you, right? It's like that was just the thing. And I was saying, I've had a tough life. Like my family didn't impact me. The world impacted me because I lived in a place that was very unsafe. But my mum and dad, I can't ever remember being spanked. I can't remember it. My family weren't violent, weren't abusive in that way, right? But it was the age and stage where the wooden spoon, the iron cord or the electrical cord, you feeling me? I don't know. Culturally, it'll be different. Or the shoe. I lived in a multicultural area, so it's like the Italians and the Greeks throwing the shoe. The mother would throw the shoe. I think other cultures do that too. But so anyway, so the window of tolerance. So where do you go? And then once you're there, either there or there, outside that window, right, of where you're regulated, there's no emotional, if you're going to them or they're coming to you, whoever's, so let's say it's you're dysregulated and you're going into trauma stories. So it doesn't matter what the people around you are doing because you're already so aroused that you can't be negotiated, on an emotional level. All we could do is regulate you, calm the system. Pardon me. Right? So that's why principals used to call me. This was my job, right? I would work with these kids 24/7. Whenever they needed me, I was on call. So if a teacher or a parent or a foster parent or the police or whatever, these kids would be doing something. They'd be on the roof trying to jump or whatever they were doing. They would call me and I would negotiate them to safety. What was I doing? Regulating their nervous system, calming into the window, so then we could start to talk. Remember I talked the other day about, and some of you may not have been on before, but I talked about the number one key to healing is presence. And if you have an ongoing relationship in presence, conscious, when you show up, just you showing up can help calm. I had a role in, so in Australia, we had the CAT team, which was the crisis mental health team. So when something happened in the community and someone's life was at risk, you would call the CAT team. The CAT team called me. So the police called the CAT called me. Why? Because a lot of these people were my clients. I have relationship with them. The relationship is what is important. What is your relationship? Consciously present. Does that make sense? Being the safe person, right? Some of you say that when you come in. I think one of you said it the other day, when you came into the circle and you had something going on and you came into the circle, like the live we had, and you felt better just being in the circle. That's what I'm talking about. There's a relationship. There's always a relationship, but what is it? Is it a safe one? Is it an unsafe one? Anyway, I've gone all over the shop. We'll wrap it up and I'll come over and see if you want to have a chat about something else. But I still haven't gone on to the second page, but you know, we'll stop on this first page. Oh, you got no idea how many journals I have. I mean, I'm surrounded by them. I have like writing, drawing, right? So I guess we'll end on the reflection of there are many movies. And if you wake in the morning with the expectation that you are going to be how you were yesterday, or they are going to be how they were an hour ago or a year ago. So this links to a teaching on forgiveness, which is the 7, or unforgiveness, or pre-forgiveness. It sort of does your head in in a way. So I'm just going to drop that there, right? It links to the pre-forgiving. The understanding of this can bring you to pre-forgiveness. So therefore, we're not getting into the loop of hurt, unforgiveness. Hurts more, can't forgive, right? And we go round. A pre-forgiving is an understanding of the human condition. This isn't about if you've just gone into a trigger, I can feel it was like some of you went into, but they did this and blah, 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 right? That's the story. It's your story. I actually heard something last night. It was a reel. Someone was, I mean, this might trigger some of you, so trigger alert. It was a woman telling how her husband was murdered by his family and in the street, shot and by the father, and the brothers were there and all the rest of it. And then after the fact, and she tried to save him, she couldn't, all that. After the fact, the story is that it was her fault. So the right? It's the story. The man who shot his own son, story is it's the woman's fault. I can't remember what, for, I don't know, for not helping him or for driving. I don't know. I can't remember now. But I remembered that, right? Because I was like, oh, the stories we tell to make it what? Acceptable. A leader in your own life or in your own company or in your own school or your academy or whatever it is, as the mother or the parent or the spouse, leadership, you take 100% responsibility in your life. It's not 100% your fault. Do you know the difference? Just see, contemplate that. So when you hear people saying, I did it because you did this, they're in their story, or you're in your story, or I'm in my story, right? So it's sitting in the fear, it's sitting with the fear, it's having a relationship with the fear and going, I responded that way. It doesn't matter why. So that's hard for a lot of people. You know, it's a journey. You know, it's not about like having it all in your little bag right now. It's this story constantly shifting, changing, refining, becoming transparent, clearing, cleaning, accepting, being responsible, pre-forgiving. Pre-forgive yourself, for goodness sake. So that's not projected. Anyway, I'll take you deeper into pre-forgiving another day. All right, we're gonna, I sort of forgot we were streaming that, so I'll come over, and lots of cats. Seen 2 cat tails today. We will stop the live, but again, thanks for joining us. Lots of new names watching, some older names, or when I say older, you know. And come and join us for the Cloud Odyssey, right? We go deep. We go deep. And it's not in a way that it's going to be, you know, terrifying. It's terrifying on your own. We look at the maps, the map makers, how those maps are made, right? Which create the different parts of the map of your consciousness that's creating these reactions or responses. How you can forgive or not forgive, how you respond or react, how you regulate or non-regulate, what's your behavior in the world, what are your movies, who are the actors in the movie, just within you, the actors within you, all the parts of yourself and the voices they have. And then how do others aspects within their movie, when they interact with you, you've got this whole cast and crew of multiple movies playing out in the field. Right? Energetically, those projections you feel before they're even completely in there, energetically. So if you're challenged by something in life, if you have chronic health, wellness, you're working towards building an empire, right? An academy for unconditional love. That's what Cloud's part of, the Academy of Conscious Evolution. And you're getting stuck, or you're having disagreements, or there's everybody around you feels difficult. You know, what's happening in your life? And are you ready to look? Are you ready to be in a container that can support you while you navigate that? Right? And we do it through lots of different ways of, sometimes it might be creative expression, writing, drawing. We use the body a lot, feeling where it is, moving it, allowing it to move. What's the energy doing? All of these things. So energy, physical, soul to spirit. Come and join us, the Cloud Odyssey. All right, much love until we meet